fly into the past from the future or something like that whatsoever. I don't know. Words are hard. Again, as usual, it's me, Craftsdwarf, your host, Nen Show Podcast. This is my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
Future, except all the words are the sentences are structured weirdly, and the translation is the translation, the scan quality.
These are the roughest scans we've had to deal with, and I like the first volume of Ashino Joe was a little rough, and a little after that was kind of iffy for the first couple volumes, but like Kinnikuman had some rough spots for sure, but like this one is 100% like oof. Especially in the earlier parts I felt. But anyway, so before we get into the podcast, I want to do a quick update regarding like how things are going to go. I'm recording this on the 23rd. A week from now, I will be waiting for in progress or like and I'm going to Sweden for vacation. So I'll be unavailable for, that's today, basically the day this comes up, and then the following Sunday, and we record on Sundays. So that means the podcast is going on a little hiatus. Another reason it's doing that is because basically, I'm going to come back, like I said, 2 Sundays from now. The Sunday after that, we're planning to do the Dr. Slump stream, which has been delayed for various reasons. So that'll happen, and then a week after that, we will record. So it's going to be about like a month or so before we get another Reborn episode. So just a warning and / update on how that's going. So yeah.
Also, if my audio sounds a bit weird in this episode, it's because like I'm currently in the middle of restructuring my setup. Like I got a new computer that I'm trying to put together, but it's not quite there, and I'm a new desk, and so everything's not quite how I want it to be. So if my audio is a bit more like echoey than normal or something, it should be good by the next time.
Yeah, because there's only so much you can do with that, because I remember there was like, when I was looking up auto editing, because like, yeah, echoing is a problem you run into, especially when you're doing things for the first time in a new setup, or just as recording your voice for the first time period, just because like, it's not something a room you'd be recording in is casually set up for. And I remember when I was looking it up, like one thing was pointed out was that like, when you're trying to edit an echo out of the audio, you're trying to like, it can't just pick up the echo because you're removing the audio from itself, basically. Like, it sounds just like the stuff you want to keep. So how do your noise removal programs know how to do that? Like it's kind of the best advice they give is to just not let it happen in the first place. So
I do at the very least. I finally got some of those like soundproofing like panels that you can put on the walls. I just haven't had the time to do it yet. So by the next time, hopefully that works and this room is a bit better set up. But
yeah, so but yeah, anyway, so we finished the future arc. Preliminary thoughts. What did you think about the future arc now that we're finished?
It was an arc of a manga that I read.
Kind of feel the same way. There was some cool... I definitely like this reading better, but, there was some neat stuff. There was some stuff I didn't care for whatsoever. I have some gripes, I guess, and not even just... Because, like, it could just be, or in some ways that, like, yeah, my enjoyment of the arc was heavily hindered by just, like, incomprehensible translations or
I definitely think a good chunk of my like frustration with this arc wasn't even the manga's fault, and I feel like just by the nature of the translation, where it feels like kind of long-winded sort of explanations of techniques or the setting or whatever are kind of par for the course with Jump manga, but when the translation is just like making it even more long-winded and sentences are structured in a way that I'm not used to, or just typos, or it really I feel like I was getting burned out trying to even just read a few chapters in a row, because it's like, oh my god, the whole reading wasn't. There were just some stretches that were particularly worse than others, but as far as like the arc itself, I definitely think this was probably a better reading than the previous one. More so just because we're finally getting payoffs to everything that was set up before. But yeah, just the translation really hurt this one, and the scan quality is just. I'm trying to enjoy this manga, and I don't dislike it, but I'm just having a hard time enjoying it, I guess.
So yeah, anyway, I guess welcome, in summary, welcome to fucking translations in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, I've had discussions about this because, like, the thing now is that, like, since we get so many official releases, and the bar for official releases is definitely, like, it's pretty decent, and as a result, people will no longer really accept bad fan release, because, like, this is all we had. This is still the only way we can read Reborn is like this, right? Like, we have to go through these awful fan scans,
Yeah.
which is why people accepted them. But nowadays you have so many official releases of so many manga that it doesn't happen any, like, now when you get fan translations, they're actually, like, decent or even, like, or solid or even better than the official ones, because they can do things that the official can't do. Like, Golden Kamui had a lot of, like, notes of historical references and certain translation terms, like, in big images that couldn't fit in a translated volume, right? So different times, different what's the word, environments for the scene, basically. But we are seeing the negative side of this time period's translations. So unfortunate.
I don't remember the last time we read a like, I'm sure it happened before, but I can't remember the last time we read a fan translation where it was like, there'd occasionally be some translators' notes that are like commenting on the manga, and it's like, I don't care what the translator thinks about the story. Like, oh, yeah, the 6 funeral wreaths, they have too many androgynous characters. Like, okay.
No, the last time I remember that was Kinnikuman, which was also just like, yeah, I mean, if we ever read Hajime no Ippo, that's the last manga I read that I remember getting that. So luckily it doesn't happen that often, but it's still just, I don't care. You are, like, thank you for translating it, but I really don't care what you think. I'm glad for the translation. That's the nice thing about official translations. You don't get the fucking, translate their opinions. You just get the fucking manga that they fucking worked hard on to translate, and, for underpaid wages and, probably bad turnover times. It is how it is.
I think the funniest example of, like, like, translators inserting their opinion into a manga or something like that is when I recently read the first, like, volume or so of Baby Steps for a podcast with Taser Lad. There's a translation in it that's like, it's like the main character pulls out a dictionary and is looking up, like, the definition of like and love. But the translator doesn't translate it. They just said, like, they put in the dialogue box, like, you know what like and love means. I don't need to translate this.
That's fucking great. No, I've seen one that's like, where it's like, if you understand Japanese, you know what this means, or something like that. Like, just asshole fucking translators just looking for every excuse they can to cut corners. And
we can't translate Ipin's gibberish. I think that was another one I remember from this reading.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that now. Oh boy. Anyway, let's get into the reading. So starting off, I completely my misinterpretation was, like, we saw Shoichi in, like, his business attire and then his more casual attire, and for some reason I had the idea that they were like, this was what he looked like 10 years in the past and this is what he looks like in the future. But that was not the case. They're the same fucking person. I'm just like, whoops. So I just didn't know what the fuck was happening, basically. As I explained that, he got hit by the 10-year bazooka, and it's like, no, he just took off his clothes and changed his outfit. Because he was like standing, and then he was on the ground. I was really fucking confused, I guess. And also, like, I just kind of assumed that he knew what was going on, kind of like future Hibari kind of figured when past Hibari was going to come in. So it made sense to me that past Shoichi came in and he knew what was going on. So I don't know. I just accepted it and was like, yeah, that seems reasonable. It wasn't correct, but and of course he immediately goes into, like, hey, you know what? You guys need more training. Like, holy shit, there's so much fucking training in this manga. Like, actually, like, thinking about it, because people give series like Dragon Ball shit about it, but, like, I don't remember Goku training, like, this is what, the third training portion this arc so far, it feels like? Maybe at least second? but it feels like it's just been a lot of the characters continually getting stronger, and like you said, it's just barely enough, if that. What the fuck is the rest of the series gonna look like? Is it just gonna keep going?
Well, yeah, because like they came in from from the past, and then they had to train to keep up with some of the people, and then they started doing the fighting, and then Suna had to do more training with Spanner, and then that fighting ended, and then they had to do more training to fight the big bad. And
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely a lot.
But anyway, yeah. Shoichi explains more about Byakuran a bit, and that he's an ally since they need to stop him. We get more later, of course. Then we get the future Varia, who I do like that. They're allies, like, which makes sense. Like in general, a lot. Like even with this arc, you had the black and white Milifor. And then you have, like, because there's it's split into two sides, and then you do get the people who are on, Uni's side working alongside the Vongola family. So even before the arc's over, you're getting, like, former enemies becoming allies. I mean, that said, I mostly, like, I like Squallow, and I like Zonzis. The other guys, I don't really care. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, Squallow being the kind of highlight of the group who did more on his own in this arc was like this manga knows what of the previous characters to put a real like emphasis on.
For sure, yeah. Because we get a bunch of fighting with the future Varia, and they're cool. I guess especially mostly Squallow and Zanza. I kind of fucking forgot about fucking. Bells had, or what, fucking Belphegor? I don't fucking remember the prince's name having a brother. That was a thing. Zanzis is so cool though, because he just comes in and he's pissed off and he just fucking takes it like fucking Rex house. Like I especially like how he's like the way he says like hold on, how do I, or what was it exactly? Right, like, because he wants to stand on the top of the Vongola family, but, like, he also doesn't want the Vongola family to be weakened in any way, like, but for example, by infighting, like, they would say, like, hey, why don't you take out Suna now? And it's like, well, we're still the Vongola family, like, we're, I'll fucking kill him later. You guys are the enemy to the Vongola family now. So, cool dude. Like, he wants the Vongola's family to be the strongest, and in not, like, killing Suna, he's recognizing that, like, his strength is worthwhile, I guess. Because this is a Zonzis, like, they don't really go into it, but, like, because he was frozen away at the end of the last arc, and now in the future he's back, basically, so he's literally chilled out in some way, or figuratively chilled out in some way. Literally, I guess it'd be the opposite, since he's not frozen anymore. That was stupid. Why did I say that? Did you have any thoughts on this part of the reading?
It happened. I feel like I'm not gonna have a whole lot to say again, because just like, I don't know. It's not like I'm not. I don't know. Like, I don't dislike the manga. I like the characters fine enough and stuff. It's just like I have not really found much to take away from it to like talk about. Like the first reading, it was kind of like, this isn't great. I'm not vibing with the comedy. And then the second reading was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. We can talk about like how it's shifted from being it's how the like gag roots kind of turned into an action series, and then like it had interesting ideas, and I think it still does, but I don't know. I just haven't had much to really take away from it.
Yeah, because I think to give my overall thoughts on the manga so far is that like it's fine. But yeah, it definitely isn't really clicking with me. Like I'm getting some stuff out of the conflicts and stuff, and I do like a number of the characters for sure. But like it also, I guess, I don't know. It's also just really big. Like there are just a lot of characters, which makes like if it's spending more time on someone who I don't really care for, then I'm like, oh, okay, like there's just a bunch of new antagonists, and then the fucking Vario takes him out, and it's like, okay, And like one example character who I'm kind of interested in, but who I wouldn't say is interesting necessarily, is like Chrome, because it's like she's got so much stuff scattered across. Like I mentioned last time, like there was a friendship moment where she summoned her illusions of Mukuro's gang basically, but then I'm like, well, they're not really nice to her, so I don't know. Chrome's kind of fucked in a way that I want to like think about, but I would have to go through the manga and basically like read all the Chrome related stuff like all at once, because my reading has been so scattered through the Nen Show and the delays and stuff. But also I don't know if I'm going to take the time to do that. Currently she's got a good design. She's cute, and that's most of my takeaway from her. So
it sounds kind of like how with just the way that Bleach is structured, that you really could, if you wanted to, just like follow a single character and kind of get their arc that way. But when it's like the bigger picture and everything is smashed together, and it's like you're kind of getting the little progressions in isolation.
Right, and I guess a difference as well. Okay, because I like Bleach a lot, though I also wasn't super into it my first read through. Though I guess like looking back now, comparing Bleach is like, because Bleach writing wise is fucking insane. Like it does so much shit that I just want to dig into to understand it better. Like it's just really interesting, and also it just has better scans and translation because it has a full official release that's from the time period is probably like one of Viz's better releases, right? Like thinking of what else was because Naruto and One Piece are decent, but I have issues with them. Yu Yu Hakusho is obviously like I think that was stand out the worst Viz release we read because of how many bad translations, deliberate, not bad translations of it. There was very, I guess, like deliberately wrong translations, if that makes sense, like very odd, decisions as far as like, that impacted how you read the manga basically, and obviously some of the more recent ones are fine, but and a lot of the older ones don't really have much, Kinnikuman was basically all fan translated, and Joe, for example, so this one was purely fan translated, and it definitely, I'd say it to a degree impacts the reading, just because it's a big story with a lot of characters, and bad scans and translations that kind of hinder just going through it and keeping all the details in mind. So
because it's even where like certain like I noticed like in certain chapters like names were translated differently, even though it's
Lambo
still the same
became
thing.
Rambo for existence. Yeah, like I remember.
Yeah, and like Spanner was more like how they would pronounce it, and it's just like I don't know, just little things like that. Or I feel like there were several different ways that the Triniset were translated, or just things like that kind of made it. It just felt kind of scrambled, I guess.
Yeah, and like in that case, I actually preferred it being translated that way, because then I'm like reading it how it's intended to be reading it. Where when I saw it as V3, my brain just went V3, which doesn't really, or V to the power of 3. I don't know how it just does, which doesn't really flow well, or even like directly imply what it's supposed to be. Where I guess Trinicente is more a unique word. So it's more kind of like there's a sort of like I don't want to call it mythologization. But like there's the way that certain like words are treated when you don't translate them. Like an example is with One Piece, you have Nakama, which means comrade or friend, and like Kaizoku fan subs, which was the only the only way you could watch One Piece 10-15 years ago. They didn't translate that word because they thought it was too important. And then you get words like haki or nen, which in Japanese they're just words, right? Like they have meanings like any other word, but when you don't translate them, it carries a sort of like special quality to them. So it's easy to kind of forget that these are just normal ass words. We kind of get that at the end with the three. There's the Mare rings, which are sea, the Vongola, which are the Arcobaleno was rainbow. I forget what the Vongola were, but they had a meaning too, and they were connected, right? But it's also like, because they're not translated, those words stand out more, especially if they are, noteworthy. Like, in One Piece, like, hockey is just, like, a word you can use, but in One Piece it's also a part of a power system, so having a unique word to talk about it helps discussions, right? So I'm not having to constantly differentiate between hockey, the word, and hockey, the One Piece fictional exaggeration power system,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Translation's a tricky fucking business. Like, I'm fine with there being like occasional like mistranslations and issues that I can disagree with, but like if they don't have like translation notes, or in this like, because that's the thing, there's not a lot of translation notes explaining a lot of the translations, and sometimes it's just not even good English, which is honestly the biggest problem. Like, I just can't fucking tell what they're trying to say. So
Or even like a little thing that bothered me was like some with the way that they would do like typesetting, where like sometimes a word is hyphenated to a different line. Sometimes it would even be like it's every letter in the word but one, and that one letter is on a different line for like seemingly no reason.
yeah, basically bad typesetting, right? So it's like, yeah, it's tiring.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of things that making like, like if we weren't doing this for the podcast, I think I would have dropped the manga, because like I guess the question then becomes like, well, is because like you said, this is what people have, so then it just is a matter of like, would you rather just not read the manga at all or deal with the bad translations? And for some people it would be one answer, and for some it would be the other. And if we weren't doing this for the podcast, I don't know that I'd have had the patience to push through it.
Right, and because another thing has been something that I have in mind is there is an anime adaptation that goes up to like, I think it actually does adapt the future arc, and then it does. If I heard correctly, it does a shorter arc after that uses some of the elements from the next arc, but in a different way or something. So it's like, it's not like this is the only way we have to go through the series, even if it is the only way we have to go through like the last two arcs. And being an anime from a 200 episode anime adapting 30 volumes, there's probably at the very least anime original content. I don't know how well paced it is, and maybe it's still a good watch. But if I was gonna watch a 200 episode anime, probably wouldn't be Reborn. Like, I'm sorry, I'd have other stuff I could watch. But if you like can't like you said, just are frustrated with and don't want to read the manga, the anime probably has a better trend, just because anime is more commonly watched. So there's like Funimation, there's probably, I don't know if it's like fully subbed or fully dubbed rather, but I'm sure it's fully subbed, and I could easily see there being multiple you're more likely to get multiple subtitle groups than you are multiple fan translations of manga, unless it's like an ongoing really popular manga, like going through releases, like as I was reading like Kaguya-sama or Berserk, there would be times where there's multiple groups doing it, so I just have to pick which translation I'm reading, basically. So where obviously in this case it wasn't that's not what happened. We didn't have competing translators, because especially in this case you get like speed scans where the focus is, because the chapter the group that gets it up first is the one that's going to get the most like clicks to their site, and thus the most ad revenue. So that was a lot of what happened at this time period. Yeah, there's reasons it's like it, but it's still unfortunate that, because apparently there is I saw like the first page, but apparently a group is going through and redoing Yu Yu Hakusho, which I wanted back when we talked about that. And it would be really cool if that gets finished and we just have one solid like good translation. And they also included the color pages, which was nice. Like, that's what I saw was the first the color pages of Yu Yu Hakusho from the first chapter, and I would translate to English, and I was like, oh, if they do all that, that'd be fucking awesome. Because I would love to read like one good solid, like not have to jump between translations to find the fucking point of the story, or stated more directly, and get over the fucking weird visisms, or occasionally like even the fan translation had a couple errors. So it's like anyway. After all the various stuff, Byakuran is like, no, I actually had a bunch of strong guys that you guys didn't know about. And he proposes the game, basically.
They just keep calling them the real 6 funeral wreaths. At no point do they ever switch to just calling them the 6 funeral wreaths, which I'm just like, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of silly.
Yeah. I mean, it might be like a case where it's like, they use the term shin or something, or what's the other word? They have, I feel like I've seen them in like some of the Monster Hunter games where they'll have like the original version and then they'll have the shin version, or there's another word like that, but so it's probably something like that where they just translated it directly, and it's a little weird. So yeah, they get the Vongola boxes, which they need to train with, and they do get to keep them into the next arc, So that's nice that because I was wondering about that, where it's like, because I mentioned how maybe they won't have all this shit in the next arc when they go back to the past, and which was making me wonder, like, well, okay, if they don't keep all this shit, then I guess, like, are we gonna see, like, if we don't see it again later, then that kind of makes me wonder, why is it so important that they're getting it now, outside of this arc? And it's like, oh no, they're gonna keep their little cute animals. It'll all be good. Oh yeah, and I like after the fighting, they see Kyoko and Haru and everyone again. It's like, just this is what they're fighting for kind of thing. Nice little moment. Then they get to training. I'm trying to see if I have anything to say about the training. Oh, they do go back to the school, which is, nice.
I'm just... I don't want to, like, sabotage the discussion, but I just see, like, some of the things that I remember bothering me during the reading. Like, it really is teleport, but how did only us left here? I think that maybe, yeah, it's just, like... I'm already slow at reading manga to begin with, so when I can't even I have to stop and process what the
you have to
sentence is even
translate
trying
the
to
translation. Say. Like, what's the point? Just learn Japanese. Like, shit. Honestly, you reminded me of one issue. Is like, so maybe I'm wrong, and there's a, because it's fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is super popular. Like, it's literally like normie popular now. Like, people I know who like have a passing interest in anime have watched JoJo. Like my little brother, and a friend of mine, who mostly plays video games. And like, so the two best translations I know about, one of them is the official one, which unfortunately has, because there's a lot of music references, and the official one's like changes a lot of them to be, which ends up being a little silly or awkward sometimes. And also, if you go to the fan discussion, they're going to be using the actual original Japanese names that are just the references. So if you read the official, then you're going to have to like undo in your, kind of like, imagine Zolo Zoro, but like for like half the cast, I guess, and like all the stand abilities and shit. Not all of them, but many of them. So, but then the colored translation, which is a fan translation, overall it was really solid, and it keeps those original names, but they also just don't translate, or they translate some of the most famous JoJo memes, and they just leave them as they are, so that like, oh, I guess if you read this way, you can understand the meme because you get the original awkward line or whatever, which means that you got like a solid translation that just occasionally has this really dumb line that if you don't know the context, it just seems really dumb, and why is it there? So I just remembered of like, here's an example of like, otherwise a good, like, so both translations have issues, and it's a matter of like, what issue do you want to deal with? And so I don't know, it's just a thought I had of, as far as just being bothered by, because like, this is not deliberate. This is very clearly like a lack of quality control or editing or revision, and just awkward translation, where that case is more of just like deliberate choices that are little aggravating. Maybe not aggravating, that's a little strong word, but I guess at least you have the choice in that case, because there are two. In this one, we don't. Yep, we got Dino, we got E-Pin's gibberish that they can't. Oh no, they fucking say it in a worse way than that. Oh god.
Oh no. Because did I not remember it right?
They say giblish, like they're doing the fake Japanese accent.
No.
Yeah. Which doesn't, because she's Chinese, so it doesn't even work. So it's like, so it's not only wrong, it's like, it's like racially offensive and also incorrectly racially offensive, like, so yeah, that's gross. I mean, and the moment is cute, at least, like you get E-Pin and Chrome having a little connection. Like, I don't remember these characters really interacting before, so it's neat, but
yeah, you do kind of get a little bit of Chrome sort of acclimating to the group, I guess, through the other female characters who are around, and I guess that's kind of neat.
Oh yeah, so they just made a big deal about this motorcycle, but I don't remember them using it at all. They used it during the battle, right? Because I'm like, wait, hold on, did they? No, they must.
Yeah,
have,
they
no,
used
they
it in the choice.
Yes, that's right. They did use it briefly. Okay, it just.
Oh, yeah, no, like this manga definitely gets style points because like, they get the cute little animals as part of their power-ups, and they get the cool motorcycles. It's like, aesthetically, this manga is still, if the scans were better, I'd maybe have more to say about it, but it's still doing a lot of cool stuff.
No, yeah, and like even art wise, it's like I'm looking at the motorcycles and like they aren't really easy things to draw, and they're very clearly not like pictures. So like, and because the thing about stuff like motorcycles and animals specifically is that they're both very complex. So like just casually being able to draw one is like you have to study and practice how to do it basically, right? Like because at least in the case with the animals, a lot of them are stylized a bit, like Uri or what was fucking Gokudera's cat? Did I misremember the no it is Uri. I don't remember. Yeah, like or fucking Nuts, Suna's lion. So they're really stylized, but a lot of the animals aren't, and so like they have different anatomies, so drawing them from like different angles and in different poses, can be, I'm sure there's references and stuff, but like I don't know, just looking at the bikes right now is like I said, they're very clearly not like because I've seen or manga even like Inuyashiki uses like very clearly like CG or photos like very stand out for like airplanes and a satellite at one point, and it just really is kind of jarring and it doesn't really work. But in this case, it's like, no, that looks like a motorcycle, and it's like it's still really detailed, but it's also, it doesn't
looks like it's part of the art style.
Exactly, it just looks like it's part of the art. It's not jarring at all, and I think.
Or another example I can think of is somewhere in the Chimera Ant arc where it's like Killua and he's holding the two guns, and they're very clearly like not Togashi's usual art style.
Right. Yeah, so I just I didn't appreciate that reading it through the first time, but seeing it again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's how I would describe. I feel like I'm enjoying this manga on more of a surface level than I normally would for like when we read like One Piece or Boruto, and I'm like, oh, I have a lot to say about this. Whereas this one, it's kind of like, I don't dislike it. It's kind of just I haven't had much of a takeaway.
I mean, even with me, it's like, I can talk about, like, here's what the point is, but I'm not getting enough of that to the level of, like, I guess let's put it this way. Me explaining the points is more of, like, a Twitter thread than a video, I guess, which isn't a knock against it. Like, I think they're good messages, but I'm just not interested in it enough to the point to want to talk about it a lot, I guess, because, like, especially back in, like, my high point of my channel, I would literally just like watch something and go, that's interesting, and I'd make a 10-minute video on it. I can't do that anymore, right? Like,
yeah.
I think especially the period where I made my Jetman video and my Aikatsu Stars video, which by the way, those shows are like 50 and 100 episodes each respectively, and I just watched them and was like, wow, this is cool. And boom, video, right? Like, here's a 40 volume manga that if I had read it back then and found it interesting, then maybe I would have made a nice 10-minute, 15-minute video explaining the point. But like reading it now, it's just like, I don't know. Like the message here is fine, but which I'll talk about it later. But I guess I'm just not getting that much out of it. So unfortunate.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like all it really amounts to is just kind of like, yeah, okay, that's a cool observation, but like not having much to like expand on it further. Mm-hmm. As opposed to like some other things where it's like, oh, this is cool, and here's this example and how this connects to this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just not really having that here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, this kind of feels like the kind of media where like I see like cool art, and like if I was like doing a tweet thread or something, I would just be like posting the cool art or whatever, but maybe not really saying much, which it doesn't make for the best podcast, I guess.
No. I mean, well, and it's also, again, like I mentioned before, the art is hindered by the scan quality not being the best. So, like, oh, look at how cool, like, there's, look at how cool this looks. And it's like, well, it could look cooler if I were holding a physical volume or reading a good scan. So yeah, even the best parts of the manga are, or for you in your case, like, because I like the art too, don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure what I would call the best parts yet, because but it's like the best part for you, one of the best and most enjoyable parts is just completely hindered. So
like I remember towards the end of the final fight, there's like a cool 2-page spread with Tsuna and Byakuran, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that hits, that's cool.
Yeah, and the volume cover I used for the last thumbnail, like I was going through the volumes and I was like, oh, that one's cool, I'm gonna use that, right? Like the art is good. It's just hard for me to appreciate it when the scan quality doesn't want me to, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. So anyway, Dino starts talking about training. I do like where he's like, okay, Yamamoto, I'm not going to train you because you got something else going on. And then Squallow's like, that motherfucker. He lost. Like, I love Squallow. He's so funny. He's just this very angry rival. Like, he comes in and it's like, here's a tuna, you piece of shit. Now we're going to train. Like, like, what? Like, is he friendly or is he angry? Like, he's so, I don't know, Squallow's funny.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of said earlier, like when the characters or like the callbacks or the characters showing up, I feel like it's always really cool. Like, you know, Squallow showing up here, or even the way like later where it's like, oh, this was the ring that Lancia gave me, or Lancia, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Zanzis does a cool thing, and what's the Gamma, I think, from the antagonist,
Yes.
like comes back towards the
mechanic,
climax.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So one little takeaway when Lambo opened his box and he has the whole lightning bull, and I don't know, one thing I just thought about, because like I think maybe I mentioned this before, because I remember there was a conversation about like, because you know the boxes and the rings work through resolve, and I remember there was one character who was saying that like, you know, adults have more resolve than children, basically. So he was like, how could you could never defeat me, because you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Gamma.
Gamma. Okay, gotcha. And
When he was
one
fighting
thing
Gokudera.
and one thing I thought about this was that, like, because, like, kids don't really have, like, emotional intelligence where they can, like, understand their own feelings and explain them. Like, I can remember instances of me growing up and, like, not knowing words, like, nauseous or jealousy, and then, like, you know, so not, you know, but because I didn't have the intelligence or emotional intelligence to understand it. But, like, they still feel emotions strongly. Like, relatively speaking, like, you know, a kid who hits his hand on something could very well be experiencing the worst pain in his life, right? You know, like, you know, you know, they want, like, or they can want something so much that they'll fucking like break down and cry if they don't get it, right? Like, we think of them as really petty and small in that way, but
Yeah.
to them, it's some of the strongest emotions they're feeling in their lives, right? So I don't know, Lambo being this baby, basically, you know, like, you know, because he opens the box first, I think his Vongola box, or he's you know, he surprises everyone when he does it, you know, because like, yeah, to, you know, them, his resolve may be over like petty or small things, but you know, to him it's a strong resolve, right? So I don't know, it was just a thought I had that might have, like, they don't really talk about it that way, but it was just a thought as like, you know, I can buy it, I guess. You know, all right, and then we get the unionization of the women who are, you know, because they want to know what the fuck's going on, which is a very reasonable and understandable complaint, that they don't know what the fuck's going on, and so they're like, yeah, we're not going to do chores anymore until you fucking explain it. And I don't know, I thought it was like, because it led to some neat stuff with you know, Tsuna actually fucking telling Kyoko what's going on, and that also like helping him understand his Vongola box.
Yeah, I think, you know, the fact that it actually, you know, it seemed like there was kind of a compromise there. I was worried that, you know, initially how it was playing out, it seemed like it had the whole like, oh, boys will be boys vibe, and it's but they did, you know, at least end up explaining what was going on. And I also just kind of feel like, you know, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, how some of the gag elements carry over. I feel like, you know, at this point in the series where they've been warped 10 years into the future and they're in the apocalypse, you know, understandably, I think it's like, that's a little more than just a sumo match.
Yeah. Well, because it's actually funny, because I read this right after, because we were talking about it on the Weep Club, and Vindy mentioned how one of the things he doesn't really like about the manga is that, like, you know, he feels like there should be a point where the characters who don't know what's going on should just know what's going on. So I thought that the whole manga was just going to go through, because, like, not that he finished it, but he did finish this arc. So, like, yeah, Kyoko and Haru literally just, like, learned what was going on. And, you know, like, yeah, like, you know, Kyoko helped Suna. Haru cried a little bit, you know, because it's a lot. It's a lot, like, you know, and, but then, like, apparently... like Yamamoto still thinks it's a fucking mafia role play.
Yeah.
Which is like, because I was wondering, oh, is he gonna have some kind of weird breakdown when he realizes that it's real? And it's like, no, he just still thinks it's not real. And now it's to the point that it's so just fucking absurd that like I started laughing when I was talking about it, because it's like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, he's so broken that he just doesn't understand reality, and he's still denying it after all of this, and it's so silly. Oh my god.
Yeah, I can see how that kind of adds to the bit more and makes it funnier.
Yeah, a little. For me, for some reason, I just don't get it, because it's just like, why keep it going this long? He's like, at least Kyoko and Haru are kind of like distant from a lot of it. Like, Yamamoto's right in the fucking thick of it, and he's acting like nothing's wrong or weird, and what is wrong with you, dude? There it is. So yeah, anyway, Byakuran talks about the place of the choice game, and then Squalo comes in, he's like, you fucking noobs, have a tuna. Like, and then he, or no, that's I brought you a gift, and then he just starts beating the fucking he knocks out one of Yamamoto's teeth, like, and he's like, I'm taking this trash, we gotta train. So anyway, then we see a bit of the Byakuran's group, the funeral wreaths. They exist. I don't really have much to say about them as a group. Like, Byakuran's got some stuff, I guess, but the rest of the funeral wreaths are like, yep, they sure are villains. Oh yeah, so I'm at the color spread for chapter 240, and where she just casually, like, here's what the Arc of Valeno look like as adults. Like, all 7 of them. Like, we haven't even seen most of these fuckers as kids. So, I don't know. Just, like, something about just, like, casually revealing, like, what the characters look like, imagine if Oda was, like, the 7 worlds of the sea, and then 100 chapters later, he's like, here's what they all look like. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's kind of what this made me think of, where it's just, like fucking Reborn. Have we seen him before? Like an adult like this? I don't fucking remember. I don't think so, but, it just hit me out of left field, and I was like, excuse me?
I also really like the spread on the chapter before that, where it's, they're all going out to battle, and it's cool.
Yeah. No, good. I mean, also lots of cover pages of just like, here's the cute girls in cute outfits, and, can't really complain. So, yeah. So anyway, they start the, Byakuran, shows up in the clouds. They all open their boxes. They're going to start the choice game.
One of my favorite lines, choice is a game of choice.
Classic. I was a little disappointed because, like, I don't know, like, they explain all these mechanics and it's literally just for one battle. I was kind of expecting there to be multiple or something for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it was because, like, the way that they, like, not all the people were involved, and it did kind of seem like, so these characters are here, so then, next time maybe it'll be these other characters, but it was kind of just the one fight.
Right, like, they kind of tease that, oh, maybe Haru and Kyoko will be forced into the battle, and it's like, nope, they didn't. It didn't happen, So they had to be present, but, like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I would have wished for the arc to be longer, but it's definitely interesting to think about, like, how it could have gone, I suppose. Because, they just have the one battle, and then they go into the actual climax. And, like, because, they explain all these mechanics, and I'm like, okay, so this is what it's going to be for the rest of this arc. And then it's like, nope. So, I don't know, because I did just kind of think about, like, an instance where you had a lot of rules explained that didn't matter, that kind of worked. And do you remember in Fairy Tail, in the Grand Magic Games, where there was the one demon game, and they spend, like, half the chapter, here's all the rules to the demon game, and it was just like, I'm gonna fight all 100 of them at once. And it was awesome.
Yeah, that was
right?
cool.
So, so that's just an example of, like, you can explain the rules and just, like, throw them away. Like, that can lead to a cool moment. But here they're explaining the rules, and then they do the battle. Like, it's not like they don't matter. They just do the one battle, and I was kind of expecting more for some reason. So, I don't know, weird. My personal expectations, aren't really my most important thing. It was just a comment that I had. So,
I did like this fight, and, like, the structure of it, and, I thought it made for a good conflict.
No, yeah, and having the, even, having a way for the, they have Shoichi and Spanner jump in And like they're like, because normally they probably wouldn't be in the fight at all, so this way you kind of get them to, you know, drag them in, and like they do have a kind of what's the word, hold on, yeah, escort mission almost, where they have to protect their you know, target basically. So yeah, it's cool.
Oh, you know what? The one negative thing I'll say about this part is that the Cervello have just become the characters where anytime I see them, I just see red. Like, go away.
Which those the two ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, they're like
'cause
officiators.
yeah, we're totally neutral. Why do you always work with the bad guys though? And it's like, says nothing, leaves, and like,
It's like, we're from the future. It's like, no.
like, you know, reminder, they're working with fucking well, first they were working with Shoichi, and then Shoichi was never on Byakuran's side, so they just go, and they seem to be more or less with Byakuran, so they literally just like, yeah, we work with whoever you guys are against. Like, they're just assholes.
Yeah.
Like, even the, like, actually, that's, yeah, that come to think of it, that's like the third, that would be the second time they've turned, because like they were with Varia. Varia's on their side now, so they went to Shoichi, who's on their side now, so they went to Byakuran. Like, what is the deal with these ladies? They're just like, yeah, I can see why you're seeing red. They're just fucking shitty turncoats for no reason. They're just assholes who just like, yeah, we have no loyalties to the Bungola family. We're neutral though. Like, fuck off, you lion ass.
So that's the one good thing about that not being the final battle, because then they didn't have to be around.
So anyway, they do a little what's it called when they circle up and huddle up and, you know, Mongola fight, and Kokudera's embarrassed, even though he was the one who was headstrong about it before. So dummies. Okay, they do use the motorcycles that I forgot about for some reason. Oh no, it's not a popularity poll. It's already caught my eye, but there was a spread of, I guess, jump manga from the time. It's just kind of interesting to see from the you know, like as I recognize that Luffy, it's from the Amazon Lily when he was you know, saying, "Oh, you'll restore the Amazon just turned to stone." And so it's just interesting to see, like, okay, so this was going on in the magazine at the time that these chapters of Reborn were going. You know, so just the thought I had. Oh, we do get a popularity poll actually. This was that page was before the popularity poll. It just had a really big Reborn on it, next to a bunch of other jump manga. Yeah, and then.
So wait, if that was the Amazon Lily stuff, then would that mean that around the same time that like the Paramount War and the Pain arc and the what's the Bleach one, the Arankar arc, were all kind of reaching a climax? Was this arc also, or was this a little ahead of the curve?
This would have been ahead of the curve, at least compared to the Paramount War. I think the Pain arc hit a climax before the Paramount War happened, but we were still like, this was post Shabon the Archipelago and into that between the between stuff, because that image, even though it came from Amazon Lily, like they might have been into Impel Down at this point and just using a couple week older image, you know.
Yeah, so they were all just like relatively close together.
Yeah, no, God, I fucking wish I was reading in all the big three and I was as into them as I am now, like at the time, because like just thinking of like, man, three of the best fucking stories in Shonen Jump coming out at the same, and Hunter x Hunter would have been going on and off too. Like, fuck, man, God, wild to think. But then anyway, so I guess the fight looks like, okay, I don't think this is actual battles. It's like hypothetical or wanted battles, I guess. Because Reborn versus Suna hasn't happened. I guess. So yeah, I that's the only thing I can think of it that this poll is. It's just like the battles people want to see. Or
yeah, since they're not translated, I've just been skipping the color pages, so I'm missing any polls that are happening.
Oh, unfortunately, yeah, it's hard to talk about them. Like the fucking, because apparently it was the last one was it was a poll of like younger versions and 10-year later versions, or most wanted to see 10-year later versions. Which is why number 1 and 2 were Reborn and Suna, and why she didn't actually show them. You know, so but how are we supposed to know? They were not translated. Yeah.
Like, at least with the popularity polls, and like I can see like, okay, here's the character design, you know, because there was one in this arc, and I did at least see like, oh, okay, Suna was number 1 for the popularity poll again. But like, I can't, I just don't spend much time looking at them because I can't read them.
Right. And well, another thing I'm looking at right now, because so there's this spread after that that poll of the Milifor versus Vongola, which it looks cool, but a thought I had is that because I actually ran into this because like sometimes I'll go look for color spreads, but like that's right. So for Beastars, in my media thread on Twitter, when I finished it, I wanted to use the color spread, and I was like, oh, this is a cool spread. Let's go look up the color version. And the color version was just like this, where it's covered with all these ads and comments and like editor's notes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't want to use it now because all the text makes it look like shit. And there wasn't even that much on it, but there was just the fact that there was like volume and anime announcements. Like, well, that's not I just want the color spread. I'm fine with the chapter title. Just give me just the spread. And so the only version of it I could find was the black and white one in the manga, so it's not a color spread anymore. It's just a 2-page chapter cover spread. It's like, well, fuck, so it's like, it's another one of those like the JoJo scans where it's like you can't win, unless like you deliberately have scanlators going back and fixing and replacing these, with the more cleaned up because I have like the One Piece art books for the color walks, which they have all the color pages and the spreads and stuff, and they're really cool. I like having them in full size too. But since they're in book form, you could probably get them digitally as well. But it's not like I don't know. It's just annoying because when reading like volume scans, they're still gonna be black and white. So I don't know. I guess there's just not a lot of it's really cool that we have so much manga and we have so much of it available, but there's still, I guess, a lack of preservation in regards to certain elements. Like, I'm just imagining a hypothetical, a fan release where it's just like, okay, it's like I guess like the Yu Yu Hakusho one, where, because ideally, if they're going through and redoing the whole series, they're also going to use like the actual color pages, and preferably cleaned up and nice looking, which I'm sure there's a Yu Yu Hakusho art book somewhere, so there's probably like sources available. So basically like a perfect version of the series, right? Which, because that's the thing, no one's going back and doing that overall, right? So unfortunate. Oh yeah, so Suna fights the skull mask guy, or the guy in the cloak, and we get the first of the where, because we see his box weapon, and it's a big cape, and we kind of get I think I realized it like a couple into it, but basically because it's the future arc, but ultimately they're like gaining strength by reflecting and capturing the past, basically, like which they even bring up as a mechanic of the Vongola rings, where the Vongola rings themselves gain power through time, basically, on a single timeline, and they compare it to like how the Mario rings gather powers from different timelines, for example, which was neat. Oh yeah, the fight with Yamamoto and Genkishi was pretty cool. I mean, it's also I kind of because it's like a squash fight basically. So, yeah. But it's also it's still kind of fun just because it's like Genkishi took 3 dudes to take down. Like he beat Yamamoto, he beat Hibari, and then fucking then Suna had to take him down, and now here he's like, I wasn't even at my full power, and Yamamoto still just fucking beats his ass. Like, it's so funny.
It's like the One Punch Man like okay meme. Like, I wasn't even at my full power, and it's like, all right, I'll just have to beat you again.
And then we also see Genkishi has this, again, he has this utter devotion and loyalty to Byakuran, but Byakuran, he's basically like, because he's seen so many timelines, he's become this nihilist who kind of doesn't care, or he never even cared about existence in the first place. But I highly doubt that finding this power of observing, sharing consciousness across timelines, probably didn't help any. So he just like, I guess if he's seen so many like instances of say Genkishi's life, then why would he care about this one? So he just ultimately sees everything as expendable and like nothing matters to him whatsoever. Like, he's a complete nihilist basically. Yeah,
I feel like that's at least one thing I can give this manga credit for, is that I feel like it has very much stuck to the theme of like the Vongola are very connected and unified, whereas the antagonists are very like, there's the main guy at the top and everyone else is disposable.
Yes.
But that like they're doing it in a way that's like, it never feels like, I mean, I'm sure this would be a thing where like if it was more popular, people would be like, oh, it's repetitive, it's doing the same thing. But like it's done in an interesting way, I feel like, every time. So it still feels like it's a good use of the formula or the trope, I guess.
Right, because I feel like it's kind of similar, like in One Piece, where you get the bad guy, is a tyrant who abuses their men, right? Like you get these repetitive things, but like as long as the antagonists themselves still feel like in this case, yeah, they do it for different like reasonings and for different parts of the conflicts of the arc, right? Like like Zanzis was an asshole who would like laugh when his because with him it was more about like strength and weakness and like his sense of belonging with the Von Gogh family, where with Byakuran, like he just doesn't care about anything in the first place, right? Like so they all have distinct reasons for being the way they are, even if like at the end of the day, like they are the same thing more or less, like you said, treating their minions as disposable, but in doing it for different reasons. Like it at least keeps it like okay, yeah, and it does create a through line of like okay, all the villains are like this for a reason that contrasts how the main characters are like, right? So my big question is, when is Longchamp going to be the main antagonist, because he has all these bonds that he of people like that are fleeting. And no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I just thought about Longchamp being the anti-Suna again, and I was like, well, that would have been something if he became the bad guy. I think, didn't they mention last reading that Longchamp fucking died in the future?
Yeah, I think they did.
Rip Bozo. So anyway, the fighting continues. They kind of get to, like, Shoichi gets attacked. And Suna blasts his way to illusion to get to the Milleford target character whose name I forget. The one who can't die.
Daisy,
thank you. And yeah, both of them get hit, but since Daisy can't die, they lose. But yeah, and then Shoichi goes into explaining what the fuck is going on, and he accidentally used the 10-year bazooka and met Byakuran in 2 different timelines, which unlocked his ability to recognize that different universes existed. And gradually just destroyed basically all of them, and they use it to explain all this weird stuff like having medical knowledge. And I think they reveal later that with his minions that like they at one point in other universes they were strong or ruled the universe. I forget what he said, but he. So he looked for those people who were strong in other universes to make these versions who were, in rough situations. Like he would, pick them back up basically, so he could, use their strengths, I guess. And yeah, it also works because like the way it have in the climax where Lancia's ring protects Suna, because they talk about how like because Shoichi, this one, Shoichi coincidentally met Suna, and that was what led to this timeline where they actually have a chance, and every other timeline is fucked. And I don't know, just the way like they counter Byakuran's nihilism, where Suna is like, yeah, everything, all these little things matter, basically, right? Like, he finds meaning and purpose in his existence, and the past has led to the present, basically, where Byakuran completely wants to overwrite everything and just make his own future, basically. So it was neat. Good conflict. I just skipped to the end.
There was one chapter in there where I was really confused because like it does the like chapter end page like halfway through, and then there's more from the scene before. So I'm like, I don't know if they just put it out of order or like what happened there. It was chapter 253.
Okay. I did not have that issue, or because hold on, let me go back. Okay, mine is in the proper order, so that might have been an error on your end with. Because the last page with the uni coming in, right?
Yeah, that for me that was like the 9th page.
That's bizarre, because for me
I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah,
because it didn't happen for any other chapter.
So, okay, that's weird. Because for me it's just the last page, and then so I did. Yeah, okay. Because you have it on. You're using a website, right? Or did you download it? Okay, yeah, because I have it downloaded, so it's in the proper order on mine, but not on yours. So okay, they don't really look at the uploaded chapters on depending on the. Okay, is it Manga-C? Because that's the site I usually use. Yeah, they don't really look, because obviously there's a bunch of pages cut in half, and I think I've run into some issues on Manga-C too. So it is what it is. But anyway, they request a rematch. Uni, as the other leader of the Mill 4, accepts it. But because she's needed for Byakuran's scheme. Well, because that doesn't really work out, but she's needed for the scheme. So she breaks from the family and has Suna protect her. Squallow comes in, of course, and he's Squallow.
I also like how like Squallow and Hibari both come in, and Hibari's like, "You're in my way," and it's just like poking him with the. It's like both of the really cool boys are fighting to be the coolest boy.
Right.
But I really can't pin down like an aesthetic character for this manga because they're all the aesthetic character.
I think you had a similar feeling with Saint Seiya, where it's like the whole series is aesthetic, so it's like, well, picking one is kind of difficult. Yeah. At least at a point. I think by the end you might have had maybe. Do you remember if you picked a single one, or was it just again the whole?
No, I don't remember.
Then you probably didn't pick a single one then. Gotcha. But no, there's a lot to pick from, so I understand. But anyway, Mukuro steps in, and like once again he's on there. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm not even questioning his allegiances because he keeps saying it's like he's probably gonna like Reborn even warned him like, hey, Mukuro's probably gonna betray you eventually. And of course there's the whole reality illusion thing, but at the same time he's like, I don't want anyone else to take over the world, so I'm gonna help Suna out. So I'm just laughing at it because like Bluebell is like bitching at Byakuran for focusing on Uni, and he's like explaining that they need her because of the her connection to Trinicete, and after he does that, he angrily eats a bunch of marshmallows.
Yeah.
Like it's just something about the way he's just stuffing it in his face with an intense look on his is funny.
No, that's peak.
There it is. I was thinking, wait, hold on, wasn't there a Hibari moment? It's like, the fucking the machine sends a bunch of fragments everywhere, and Hibari's like, one of them went towards the school. Bye. He's so silly. Dino falls on his fucking face. And then basically just like the choice battle just becomes just an outright escape battle. They go to find a realtor, which is Haru's genius masterstroke. And Suna's like, well, we don't have any fucking better ideas, so I guess we'll go. And then they run into the guy who Ipin usually delivers ramen to in the future, which was, I wouldn't have, tried to predict that we would meet that character, but I did. There he is.
It's like if we're 10 years in the future, in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, I see it, but like it was still like, oh, okay, they brought this character in. That's pretty cool.
Speaking of references to the gag stuff, so back when we were doing the first reading, because some people I know like Namanji and Luna who are fans of Reborn were also rereading it, and I remember them posting, it was a page from the Zoo chapter, and they didn't explain what it was, but they were like, wow, I didn't expect to see this reference, and it was what I was focusing on was like Suna, like Kyoko was comparing him to a hamster, but there was also a lion, and so I think like because they're so just like and that's his box animal, right? Is Nuts, the lion. So right. So that was the kind of like, oh, and see now that I read it, I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about when it's like this gets referenced. So they just brought it up because neither of them noticed that before, and they were reading it. It's like, oh shit, this gets referenced later. And I picked up on that because I wanted to see how the fuck does this lion biting a character's head get referenced later, and it's like, oh well, you have Nuts, who's like was introduced being really aggressive to Suna and is now a cute little lion baby. So anyway, Kawahira, whose name is right in front of me, so that's why I did not I remembered it, helps him out a bit, so they can hide. And then they start doing the like fusing with the boxes and transforming into like animal hybrids. Only the antagonists do that, which I wonder. I don't know, just an observation.
I did like how this ended up playing out, where like the future characters who should be stronger can't handle the threats for the main characters because of the whole parallel worlds and whatnot. That it's like, oh, I've already seen through all your abilities. Whereas like, the main cast, you know, they're developing new powers as they go along. So it's like, I don't know. I felt like that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, because like, because they do talk about how, like, you know, by bringing the characters from the past, they're basically betting on their ability to grow in a new situation and grow in different ways, which is also important. And I guess another thing is, like, because their abilities aren't new, so to speak. Like, I'm just looking at the page with Hibari getting the handcuffs of the, you know, the cloud Arundi. It's hard. Okay, which took me a second to read because it's vertical text.
The vertical text.
Yeah, it's such a pain in the ass, right? You know, so like, you know, because I mentioned earlier how, you know, the Vongolas are taking from the past and moving, you know, and using that. Because like Byakuran, like, yeah, he's able to know things from the future, but he's looking across all these timelines, from their presence, from just his lifetime, basically, and not even that long of his lifetime, just part of it, right? Where, you know, they're more or less incidentally sort of like, you know, like working their way into like what the first generation Vongola, you know, worked. Like, it's not like Hibari doesn't fucking know about this fucker. He's just like, oh, cool, handcuffs, and he uses them, right? So, you know, so they're taking from the past and using them to evolve in new ways. Like, you know, kind of we got that with Suna in the Varia arc, where he's, you know, finding his own path through his powers and his flame, you know. So, you know, since they, you know, Byakuran is only focused on, you know, destroying everything and making a new future, he doesn't care about the past. So, you know, he wasn't looking there either, and that's another thing he couldn't predict. So, oh yeah, we get, Hibari takes out Daisy, and then we get the popularity poll. Where,
yeah, I was looking at this and I was like, damn, it's unfortunate that I can only know who the top 4 are. And then I scroll down and it's like, oh, 5, Zanza. I see. So I at least got the top 5.
Right? I'm also noticing how just they have a lot of votes, and it's also pretty close too. Like, the difference between number 1 and number 4 is like 3,000 votes. So, like, I don't remember seeing a popularity poll with such a relatively slim margin between, you know, this many characters. Like, usually there's a big gap somewhere, I feel.
Yeah.
That was kind of neat. Obviously we don't see the number of votes for 5 and below, but now he's called Rambo. We have to call him Rambo now.
See, for a second I thought, like, they translate it the same way later in a later chapter, so my theory I thought it would have been kind of silly if it's like, oh, they're mistranslating it, huh? But it turned out to be someone else disguised as that character. So I'm like, maybe that's their galaxy-brained way of translating it, that they just flipped the letter so that it's like, oh yeah, it's the character, I'm this character, but I'm not really this character. But it just happened to work out that way.
Okay. I haven't seen it quite like that, but it did remind me of something. So, an example that I didn't catch in the fan translation, the manga called Plunderer, where the main character, he's called, his name when he was younger was Rihito, but then when he's introduced, he's called Licht, or Licht, I think, which is pronounced Rihito, basically. But, so the fan translation didn't translate them any differently, but then when I went through another translation, like, it did basically change the R and the L and there was a meaning there, but it wasn't like a big twist, like a character reveal. That would have been interesting. Yeah. So you just reminded me of something. But anyway, they try to go into hiding. They're immediately attacked again. Gamma.
It's also weird because, like, even in that chapter, like, they use both. They call him Rambo and Lambo in the same chapter.
I didn't notice that. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm just confused.
Get your quality control, people. Yeah, it's important. You know, they just read it and make sure everything's okay. Yes, they read it and make sure everything's okay. Like, that's important. You, pirate. Oh, no, that's a problem. So yeah, the cleaner, typesetter, and quality checker is the same person. They're checking over their own cleaning and typesetting, and yep, it looks good. Yeah, you did it. Of course it looks good. Like, get another set of eyes. Mukuro gets, Chrome, they both use it, so they get their item that's able to see through illusions. And then the one girl from the Kokyo arc who worked with Mukuro is there, and she really hates Chrome. Forgot about that.
Okay, yeah, I just straight up did not recognize that character.
Oh, gotcha. No, I just kind of figured, and that scene, like, yeah, no, I guess I remember her barely enough. But yeah, she was, because like we had the other two guys, the glasses guy and the animal guy, like they've been showing up, but this one who's, I don't remember any of their fucking names. Don't ask me, please. So, and yeah, there's some stuff with Uni sort of facing her fear, and you know. Oh yeah, I forgot that she said that, or I think that she feels similar to Byakuran, and also that Suna and him are similar. Though as they fought, I remember Byakuran specifies that no, Suna is nothing like him, so or at least not like him in certain ways. I didn't think about comparing the two aside from their just the ways that I mostly noticed the ways in which they were different. So I'm not sure how she meant and how they're similar, so I don't know, didn't think about it before because I didn't really notice it. Oh yeah, I forgot. I will mention it when we get there, but I did have a gripe about how the arc resolved, and I'm curious as to if you felt anything at all. But we'll get
we'll
there.
See. My wrist just animals. Popped. That's what I had to say.
Oh no. Well, I guess your microphone would have picked that up, but interesting how Nuts is like, well, because I'm just looking at because they summon their animals, and then like Uri is chasing and bullying Nuts, and so it's like, well, so Nuts, like Reborn notes how Suna and Nuts is similar, but Gokudera and Yuri just do not get along at all. So
yeah, because they did say they were like reflective of the character's personalities, so like Suna's being a coward outside of battle, which I feel like is kind of also just funny as like a commentary on Suna's character, where it's like, yeah, when he's not battling, he's Suna, and then when he goes into battle, he's cooler Suna.
Yep.
And then it's just like Gokudera is very abrasive, so
yeah, he just makes an exception towards Suna, and Yuri makes no exception even to Gokudera, or so yeah, they fight the dinosaur guy, and Gokudera gets his box item weapon.
I guess I did kind of like in these final fights, like seeing the other characters sort of strategize and work together against the one enemy, and then they eventually kind of like all the other enemies grouped up too.
Mm-hmm. Their Varia comes in.
Oh right, also Gokudera, kind of having his moment where he had to like disagree with Suna in a way, because as part of like his character growth, that it's like, no, I'm not going in to gamble my life. I'm going in to survive and to protect everyone else.
Yeah, fighting to live and not to die. That's right.
So it's like he's still being the right hand man, but he's not doing it like he's not being like
subservient. Yeah, Gokudera is good. Which I didn't mention before, but I guess because when I brought up the anime, I also forgot, like, because I showed you the pictures from the ending that I used last time with Gokudera with like his hair tied back and glasses and a little bit of blush, and it's like, well, that's fucking adorable. So maybe there's a reason to watch the anime, is more pretty boy content. Because yeah, it was a good look, and I don't remember ever seeing it in the manga rather. Sorry. So, oh god, I just realized. So I'm looking through because so Varia shows up, and so Bluebell, like, yeah, she turns into a mermaid, and so there's one in chapter 268 where she goes new. Oh no, it is supposed to be cat sounds. Or no, yeah, I guess it's a cat. I don't know. I just thought it was weird that she's a fish, but she's making cat sounds. Because they even just translate Nya as meow in the chapter before that. So
yeah,
okay. Sure, the fish makes cat sounds. All right, I'll take it.
But I thought cats eat fish.
Don't think about it. Interesting to see Lambo getting, stuff to do as a kid instead of just relying on the bazooka, which I'm curious as to if he's going to keep doing that, or is he going to use 10 years later the bazooka still in the future arcs? I don't know.
Yeah. Although the translation was calling him Rambo again, so...
He's Lambo forever. I'm trapped.
No, this is the imposter. Why do I now just have the image in my head of, like, Rambo, but as an Among Us? Surely that wouldn't be hard to make.
No, I don't think so. Also, Hibari just like walks into a fight and looks and still like has an influence on the fight as a distraction.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think he actually fights the guy. He just like, I'm here. There it is. The one lady from the Mukuro's gang being really pissed off at Chrome, and helping her angrily, because she like wants her gone to the past, and she's annoying. Anyway, Ghost comes in, and it's technically Byakuran.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that, like, because, like, ordinarily I'm not a big fan of, like, the kind of, like, whether it's, like, a big, giant, bulky monster thing, or, like, just some stoic, like, lab creation or whatever coming in, and it's like, oh, we all have to fight this thing. I did kind of like how it was, described as being another, like, a Byakuran from another timeline, but, like, overloaded with, like, information or whatever to the point where it's, like, he kind of just lost any sense of, like... So it's sort of like, Byakuran already doesn't really care about anything, so I guess in that sense, he's kind of already, like, missing some, like, personhood, but here is sort of that taken, I guess, to, like, a logical extreme.
Yeah, he's basically at the theoretical endpoint of Byakuran, supposedly, a possible version of him. Yeah, and because and then of course you also have the way they interact with, like, because Suna is like a hard counter to Ghost because he has the flame negation absorption basically, and so he puts a stop to Ghost, but then Byakuran just absorbs that power anyway. And then we get the final conflict, where you have, an angel, something sort of divine looking, trying to make a new world, basically, and be a god, up against Suna, who's he's just a little boy.
Yeah, because I know, like, I forget the character's name, the one that Yamamoto defeated, but, like, he'd even referred to Byakuran as, like, a god, or his god.
Yeah, that because he kind of like he even mentioned like the one guy, he destroyed his whole like country or world for me because he cared about me that much. Like, he sort of becomes everything to these people, and even though he doesn't care about them whatsoever, right? So
I still need to watch that video you recommended to me about like how in like video games or whatnot, like the characters end up encountering like a false god, and so that's kind of like what Byakuran does here as well.
Yeah, which for anyone listening, that's the there's a like an hour and a half long video, like, why do we kill gods in JRPGs, basically, that sort of talks about Japanese history and how like it's basically a history of false gods. Like, you have the Japanese emperor who's like, oh yeah, he's the descendant of Amaterasu, and it's like, well, Japan lost World War II and was like, yeah, I'm not actually the descendant of Amaterasu, and that didn't work out. Then capitalism became the god in the bubble period, and then that didn't work out, and there it goes further and longer. And so that's why in a lot of, not even just JRPGs, but where you kill godlike or false gods figures, but the big three you have, or aliens are also common, which is supposed to represent, like, because capitalism is like a foreign idea, basically, to Japan. It was forced upon Japan, and so that's part of it as well. Like, they talk about like Persona 5 and Final Fantasy 7. And so I wanted to bring that up because, like, so, in Bleach you have the soul, Yuabak, who's, absorbs the Soul King, and he's a godlike figure. In Naruto you have the Otsutsuki, who are alien gods. And then in One Piece you have the Celestial Dragons, who are these, men who prayed about as if they're gods, basically. So, it's like, it's all there. And then here you have Byakuran, who he himself is also a false god, who's trying to create a new world and pass judgment on this one and destroy it. But, he's not a good person or a good god. He's a piece of shit. So, yeah, it's definitely a recurring thing for sure. And if you have an hour and a half, give that video a watch. It was pretty good. I don't watch a lot of videos anymore, but I like that one. So, I thought it was gonna be half an hour, and it was like an hour longer than that, and I still fucking watched it. I guess there's also a thing, I don't know if there's a connection, but I just thought about how, like, Uni is sort of like not creating, but I guess there is maybe because there is a whole reincarnation thing, and which ties to Buddhism for instance, right? So like with just the fact that Arkan and Bonello are reincarnated from prior versions of themselves, basically, or at least that seems to be the implication, you know. So and then here they are, like Uni ends up making them be reborn again because they died, right? So but the pacifiers are Arca-Bonello eggs, I suppose. And so I just had the thought of like, oh, is there like a, you know, because Bleach also sort of explores that angle where like, you know, the fucking why can't I remember the Vanderreich? What was their other name? The Quincy's. Thank you. That's what I was trying to remember. You know, because they're based off of Christianity, and so the Soul Reapers are more, you know, Buddhism inspired. So you have this conflict of like Buddhism versus Christianity, and that's kind of here too a little bit, which I just realized. So neat. And yeah, I like the way, like, because I'm just, you know, they go through the fight and, you know, Suna gets saved by the ring. And because they brought up the, you know, like the boxes were only formed through coincidence, you know, they talked about other scientific developments that just, you know, coincidences. And like, yeah, that's just how Suna, you know, like, yeah, all these little things matter. And, you know, the time that he spends is with his friends is, you know, something he treasures. And yeah, I don't know. It was a good climax and a good conflict.
Yeah.
Except for the gripe, which I'll get to. So, I like how Byakuran, like, gets literally blood wings, which is just so edgy. Like,
yeah. Big fan.
And then he starts shaping the blood to fight with it, and it's yeah, it's very, very edgy. Uni has to sacrifice herself, but she's afraid of death, and Gamma comes in to sort of, you know, help her remember, you know, she's not alone. Wasn't sure how I felt about that, but it happened.
There's a really cool page where Suna's like, I won't forgive you.
Yes.
And the fire, and it's cool.
Cool boy. Yeah, I agree. And then he takes out Byakuran, and Byakuran sort of goes through his perspective, and he's like, you know, like, yeah, he says he doesn't even dislike human beings. He just felt nothing whatsoever. And, you know, he was just a completely empty person. And, you know, I guess he was trying to make a new world to find something he would care about, but, you know, at the expense of everything else. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Then we get a bit more exposition, of course, like, you know, the Milliford, the graves, the grave head wreaths, funeral wreaths. What grave? Where did I get? It was related, I guess. Then, I don't know. So here's we get to my gripe where basically the Arca-Bonello come back. That's fine. And they're like, yeah, because Byakuran was erased, everyone he killed is going to come back, and it'll be fine. And I was just kind of like, I mean, because you know, they're talking about kind of like accepting the past, right? So I just felt it was a little weird that the past was then undone a little bit, and like, I don't know, I guess accepting lost wasn't really part of it, but it was just a thought I had of, I just felt like, you know, especially after Suna was just talking about, like, you know, all these things, good or bad, that happened in my past, you know, mattered to the now. And then all these bad things that Byakuran did are just undone. So, I don't know, it felt a little weird to me. If that makes... I don't know, did that even make sense?
No, I think I get where you're coming from. I think I maybe just didn't even take that explanation in properly, and, like, just assumed that it's like, oh, yeah, you go back to the past, you'll be fine. But that's definitely not what it says. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, and they also say, I mean, that said, they also say that, like, because Uni sent them back and is like, I want you guys to have a peaceful past, basically, like, for eternity. And it's like, well, there's 2 more arcs left, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so, not that I have a reason to, you know, disbelieve what the Arca-Bonello are talking about with the people coming back, but, you know, just something I noticed. It doesn't bug me a lot, it is just a little gripe, but, anyway, we get one more wrap-up chapter.
You're leaving already? Has Zanzus met up with Suna yet? Are you kidding me? If he sees Suna, he'll kill him.
Yep, that's, yeah. Squallow and Yamamoto talk, and Yamamoto's just being... like, he's, like, there's just a juxtaposition of, like, Yamamoto being, like, super chill, and Squallow's, like, so fucking angry.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, be a swordsman. He's like, but I only said I'd give up swordsman or baseball in the future. I can come back to baseball in the past. You little shit.
Yeah, it's just like there are so many cool edgy boys in this manga, so it's 10 out of 10 actually.
Oh yeah,
I think that was
Ryohei-
also kind
or-
of
oh,
a
yeah.
funny part about like all the characters grouping up at the end. It's like there are so many cool boys trying to outcool the other. They're competing for the spotlight.
But yeah, I was just gonna Ryohei saw because I didn't mention earlier, but yeah, I saw the picture of himself in the future being involved with someone who we don't see who it is, and he's like because he knows who it is. And then there's also the fucking girl from Mukuro's gang who's like, hey, Mukuro's just using you, but she love him. She blush, a cute blush. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know if there might be something kind of like how, even in the previous arc, like the main character Tsuna was like, he kind of seemed to show sympathy for Mukuro as well. So just kind of curious to see if there's any sort of connection between the two.
Don't forget what. Yeah, because I remember Reborn saying, don't forget what he's done. Right? So I don't know. I wonder what they're building to with that. But yeah, they go back to the past. Suna sees his mom, and everyone's happy to see her. And we see a glimpse of the future where we just see all the future characters just chilling. Suna's still dead? ? Or maybe not.
No, he's not dead because you see
there's just
him
a grave.
like.
Yes, you're right. The silhouette in the back. Yeah, you're right. I just noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The coffin is. Yeah, there's still the coffin there, but no, you're right. He's not in it because now I remember because before they showed it open and you saw the corpse in there, but now it's closed because he's not in there. I guess so. Okay. Yeah. Yay! Suna's alive. So, yeah. Cool. So yeah, that was a future arc. I will say, talking about it, I do appreciate it a little bit more. But from the act of reading it, I'm not sure if I like it more than the Varia, the Scramble for the Rings arc. Because like that arc was just like, it was shorter, it was just to the point, and like, it had, like Zanza, the conflict was still good. The good stuff for the art and characters. With the future arc, like the good stuff is good for sure, but also, and again, maybe it was just the way I read it, maybe it was the scan quality or a combination of the two. But it's also just, pretty long and was a bit more of a slog at times. So like, even if there's good stuff, like it's not, if the good stuff was like way better than the Varia arc, it probably wouldn't be a question, but like it is, like, I don't even know if it's better. That's the thing. Like I'd have to think about it. Cause even
I feel like I could see myself liking this more, but maybe I'd want to go through the anime or something. Cause like the act of reading it with the scans being what they are it just wasn't great.
Yeah.
I think that did more damage to the quality of the arc more than anything.
Right, which is really unfortunate because that's not something we can control, and no one can control. Like, just learn Japanese. Like, we can't do that. It's not easy. But anyway, yeah, like it's still a good arc. I just don't know if it's my favorite one outright. When I feel like especially thinking about, because I like long form stories, and I like having big long arcs can be really cool. But yeah, this one just didn't do it for me. So, which is unfortunate. But we still have 2 more arcs to go. So, like I said, do you have any final thoughts, or did you get them out already?
I think I appreciate elements of it a little more from the discussion, but, it was an arc that we read.
Yeah. So anyway, next time, which again is going to take a little while because I've got vacation, and hopefully the Dr. Sup stream as well will happen. And then, so next is going to be the Inheritance Ceremony arc, which is going to be chapters 283 to 346. And then we got one more after that, and we're done. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. And oh, fuck. Hold on. Okay, we'll do it next time. So next time, I need to write a note for myself. We're going to do a poll for the next block, where, again, we're going to choose what series we're going to... I think it's going to be the 90s block. I'll talk about it with Mathwiz, but we're going to choose the 2 series that we're going to read, and then you guys are going to vote on which one we do first. Because I forgot that was a thing, and I just remembered, and I was like, oh, fuck. So yeah, thank you for listening, and look forward to that, and we will see you next time.